Hello, all. I'm really excited today to have Gina Tabasso with me. If you don't know me, I'm Rachel Jones, and I am a sales coach for small to medium sized businesses, specifically in service and software. And Gina, you and I met a couple of weeks ago, and I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about you. Do you mind giving some of your background and who you are, what you do?
Sure. Thank you for having me. And Rachel's an excellent sales coach.
Thank
I do marketing, so we make a really dynamic duo. I do marketing consulting and strategy and implementation, primarily for small to mid-sized manufacturing, industrial, trade, and distribution companies. So I do B2B, but I've got, we go through this live stream, you're going to find out I have some pretty extensive manufacturing experience. So that's why I kind of specialize in that industry.
you. And I would like our audience to know that I did not pay you to say that, but I appreciate it. And as they have questions for you throughout, I'd invite them to put it in the comments below and we will get to those. Now, Gina, what specifically manufacturing, when people think manufacturing, it's not something that came to my mind initially as an option. So what made you interested in that?
Well, that started out right when I graduated from college. Back in the day, marketing was not called that. It was called advertising. So I was an advertising major and I graduated and had planned to work for an advertising agency. And as I went on the market interviewing, I found out that advertising agencies hardly paid anything. You would have had to live at home with your parents or with 5 roommates, and I didn't. And I had a car payment, a student loan payment, a rent payment. So I started applying for client side jobs. And the interview and offer that I had was from a manufacturing company. They made vibration analysis equipment for large rotating machinery. And they would test the bearings so that there wasn't a breakdown, that they could preventatively replace the bearings before they gave out. And they also manufactured the life support systems for Space Station Freedom. And they also paid about a third more than the advertising agencies did. So that was my first step into manufacturing.
That's very cool. And I saw that I know we've talked in the past that you've done some things with people in the welding world and just kind of, you've run the gamut with your resume. Is there any particular one that just fascinates you or just kind of everything?
You mean the clients I've worked for or the experience that I've had?
The clients that you've worked for. Is there any ones that you're like, I didn't know that existed and that was really cool to be a part of?
So many. That's why I love manufacturing. Every client is like a new world, a new universe. So I've worked with people who make wooden laminate flooring, an entrepreneur who makes fire-resistant undergarments for women in the trades, a company that does high precision plastic machining, another guy who makes exercise equipment for athletes. I've worked with robotic vision system companies, a company that takes fly ash waste from power plants and uses it to manufacture brick pavers for the construction industry. It's mind-boggling. There's another company. This is a cool company. You know how you go to the grocery store and you look in the refrigerated food aisle and you see the guacamole and the salsa that has like a 6-month expiration date? Mm-hmm. And you're like, what's up with that? How do they get this to last 6 months? It must be full of chemicals. It's not full of chemicals. It's actually a process called hydropressure packaging. And they force all the air out of the package so that there's no bacteria in it, so it doesn't deteriorate, and it extends the shelf life of a product like 5-6 times. No citric acid, no preservatives, no nothing. And so that changed my life. I started buying 6-month-old avocados.
Yeah, I actually immediately thought, well, that's going to what chemicals were in it. Yeah, that's what I've always thought in the grocery store. I had no idea.
I know, it's so interesting. I mean, I've worked with metal machining and additive companies, companies that manufacture large industrial ovens. Mm-hmm. robotic vision systems. It's just kind of run the gamut. So every new client is a new experience. I've got to say, I am passionate about those startups. They bankroll these projects with their savings. They quit their day job and they put their heart and soul in it. They have no money to hire people like me, but I love to work with them because you want to see them succeed. And they're coming up with these just revolutionary products that are changing the world. Like the undergarment manufacturer, she used to be a nurse, and she saw people coming into the hospital with third-degree burns all over their body, with their bras and underwear melted into their skin.
Oh my
Because
God.
what women in the trades, they didn't know. They didn't have undergarments for women, so they would put the men's overgarments thinking they were safe. Well, these are fire and flame resistant. I'm wearing my male overalls. But what they didn't realize is when the heat hits that, the flame and heat can't get through to your skin. But if you're wearing something synthetic under that, the heat can actually melt it. So she's saving lives, and it's just an honor to know someone like that.
I would have never even thought about that, but that makes total sense that a nurse is the one that kind of came up with that idea and ran with it. That's so cool that they're helping people like that.
Yeah.
Now, I know another part of the thing, besides the marketing analysis and the expertise in the manufacturing industry, is that you also are a proponent of the Lean Six Sigma principles. Can you explain that a little bit and how that functions with marketing for me?
Sure. It's really interesting. Lean and Six Sigma are two different methodologies. So all lean means is it wants to when you have a lean facility. Sorry, I'm getting a tickle in my throat here. You basically want to do continuous improvement. So you're always trying to improve your processes. Where Six Sigma then looks at reducing defects, reducing variation, increasing quality, increasing efficiency. So an example of that would be Six Sigma actually means the goal is to only have 3.4 defects per million. So if you manufacture 1 million teddy bears, only 3.4 of those should have an error in the stitching or the stuffing or the eye or the nose. So it's really about combining those two methodologies together to do process improvements. And so then it started out in manufacturing on the shop floor, and now it's everywhere. I mean, a friend of mine does Lean Six Sigma projects for hospital systems. I was just actually queried to do a Lean Six Sigma project for a municipal court. My original Lean Six Sigma training was at a university. So it's come out of industry and it's come into white collar businesses as ways to control and improve their processes and decrease errors. And think about a hospital. Like, of course, quality there, they want to decrease errors.
Now, how do you use that with background with the marketing side of things?
Good question, because a process is a process. So in any process, you want to increase efficiency, decrease errors, decrease variation. So with marketing, I use the Lean Six Sigma. I've done a bunch of Lean Six Sigma projects. So you can apply it to your marketing department. Say you're the manager of a marketing department and you want to look at decreasing printing costs or increasing quality of printed materials or decreasing wasted time and increasing efficiencies in a process. You could do a Lean Six Sigma project, something as simple as this. Everybody can probably relate to this in your office. You have a secretary or administrative assistant or a graphic designer, somebody doing the work. And they do the work, they print it out on the printer, they pick it up, they carry it over to you. You look at it, you mark it up, you add Post-it notes to it, or you edit the PDF and you add in some digital comments and notes. You send it back to them. They go in and make all the changes. They send it back to you to review and proof before it goes to printing. You find they made mistakes because they didn't read your handwriting right, or they made a typo on the keyboard. And it goes back and forth and back and forth. So I did a Lean Six Sigma project where I piloted, at the time, it was a new technology called InCopy, and it plugged into InDesign. And an editor could go into the design file directly while the designer was working on the file and make all of their edits and changes directly. Decreases printing cost, paper waste, mistakes, increases efficiencies. That's a little tiny example of like a Lean Six Sigma project.
That's very cool. Now, what made you interested in helping kind of clients that you're in the manufacturing world with your own business, Barracuda Marketing?
Yeah, that's been a journey. Most of my career, I was in a W-2 job, and I kept being pushed in this direction to form my own consulting business, and I kept resisting. And then I got lucky, and 2 jobs ago, I was hired by the Manufacturing Extension Partnership in Ohio as a consultant to work with their manufacturing companies. So all the stuff that was scary to me as a marketer, like how do I do sales and how do I do discovery calls and pitch decks and contracts and billing and invoicing, I had a W-2 job and they taught me how to do all that. They put me through Sandler sales training. I got my bronze certification, and then I did a year of sales mastery. So fast forward to my next job, I was the director of marketing and business development for a manufacturing company. And my beautiful boss encouraged me to start my own consulting business because he said, eventually I plan to sell this company. When that happens, I want you to be self-supporting. I don't want you going out there looking for your next job. Mm-hmm. So he gave me the bandwidth to do that. And while I was working for him, so I formed Barracuda and signed my first client. And then in May of this year, I decided to try to go full-time with my consulting business. Mm-hmm. And I left my full-time job. He became one of my clients. So my former boss is one of my clients. And I just decided it's so cool when you can help more than one manufacturer. I love that about being with that consulting company. I didn't just have one client. I had like 8 or 12 clients, and you can make so much more impact. And that's how I got to work with all those cool businesses I rattled off to you before. Mm-hmm. And also it's nice not to put all your eggs in one basket. You have a W-2 job, it goes away, you have no income. But if you're consulting and you've got 7 clients, one revenue stream goes away, you still have other income coming in. And even as a part-time job, if I was a W-2, everybody I know is working more than one job in this economy, right, with inflation and cost of things. So it's even something I could do on the side. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how it got started, thanks to a former boss of mine who gave me the courage to go do it.
That's awesome. Now, I know sales and marketing were kind of a handshake because you bring awareness and you bring in leads. And how has your experience been working with sales teams while you bring in the marketing aspect of it?
I think historically, especially in manufacturing, sales and marketing aren't always on the same page. A lot of times they work at cross purposes. They don't see the value of each other. Sales perceives marketing as a bunch of people who sit around and write blogs and play on social media. And marketing perceives sales as not cooperative, not team players, won't give me information, won't review things. And it's because they don't understand each other and they don't understand the value of each other and how to be collaborative. Because a lot of times it's a top-down mentality. If the leadership and the managers of those departments have not implemented a culture of collaboration between those two teams, then that's the mentality in the organization. So when I go into an organization, I attend the sales meeting, I become best friends with the salespeople so that they know that I am there to support them and make them succeed. And they are my bread and butter because they're the eyes and ears on the street. They're interfacing with the clients every single day. And they have so much valuable information in their heads that they can bring back to the marketing team to help us market. So you and I talked about this off camera in a prior meeting, but how the two really need to work in lockstep and inform each other. And I tell even manufacturers, I tell them, my marketing is only as good as your sales. So if you have a sales team who's former machinists or mechanical engineers who came up from the shop floor, technically brilliant, can explain every iota of the product, but they don't have the sales training. They don't know how to close a deal or convert a lead. Then there's not going to be a return on investment. I can drive all the leads I want, but if you don't convert them, you're not going to see a return on your investment. So I have a vested interest in succeeding. I want the two teams need to row in the same direction and realize I'm not there for the greater good of me. I'm there for the greater good of the company. And if working with sales and marketing is going to make this company more successful, that's going to make me more successful. So that's kind of, I go in a little different than most marketers. And I do that sales assessment and I look at training, playbook, process, sales cycle, because all of that is going to inform my marketing process.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I always tell new sales reps as they're coming up is get to know your teammates, because I don't think that's talked enough, because a lot of times us as sales humans, we tend to overpromise things, which then makes our behind the scenes people, our account managers, our marketers, the people that are going to be providing the service, miserable. And so what I find is if I come to my teams, the marketing, or to my account management and say, hey, I'd like to do this. Is it a yes? Is it a no? Here's why I think it should be one way or the other. And then I respect what they tell me, whether it's a yes or a no.
Mm-hmm.
And I go back to the client and say, no, I can't do this, but I can do this alternative that we came up with as a team. What people don't realize is that builds so much trust for the times that you do have to say, hey, I really need you guys to help me with this. And is there any way possible you could push this client over the line? Because I really think we could help them. They are way more open to doing that one-off than they are if you just completely disrespect them and their time and their art, what they're doing.
What you said is key, about building that trust. And you have to teach marketing teams as well. Hey, marketing, you're on a W-2. You've got a paycheck every 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. The sales team are often working on commission. So every action they take, they want to feel like that action is going to move them toward a sale because they've got a family to feed too. And so, being respectful of their time, and that educational piece, getting them to see the value of what you're doing, that you are putting money on their table, that you're going to, what I find in manufacturers are very focused on bottom of funnel. They are sell organizations, sell. A lot of times they don't see the value of marketing. They might not even be doing marketing. And then what happens? Every time the funnel taps out, oh my God, we have no leads, we have no cash, we have no sales. We need to hire a marketing person to come in and do lead generation. Mm-hmm. Too late. I'm not a miracle worker. I can't get you sales overnight. Marketing is a long game. It's relational. It's not sales, it's relationships. Mm-hmm. And so they need to be driving leads into that top of funnel continually and nurturing those leads and nurturing them and moving them through the funnel so that your bottom of funnel never taps out. And that's where marketing plays a key role, is keep filling that funnel.
Oh, you beat me to my next question, which was going to be, I think you've explained a lot on how you are uniquely set up to help people in the manufacturing world be successful in their marketing. But is there anything specifically unique that we haven't talked about that's unique to you that you offer to help small businesses or small manufacturing, mid-sized manufacturing companies with their marketing?
Sure. I do have some really unique differentiators because of my background in manufacturing and in Lean Six Sigma. So I approach a manufacturer with a manufacturing mindset, not a marketing mindset. I don't speak marketing speak to them, and I don't do a typical cookie cutter agency marketing strategy. So I do what's typical, what's necessary. You've got to do your marketing mix, your marketing channels, your buyer personas, your marketing budget, your marketing calendar. All of that is pretty standard. But then to understand their business and how they are uniquely different, I always do that sales assessment where I interview the whole sales team and look at their process, playbook, training, a sales cycle. If you tell me your sales cycle's a year and a half, and then you're upset with me because I didn't bring you sales in 3 months, well, you're asking me to beat your sales cycle, which I did. I had a manufacturer who their lead time was a year and a half, and I got them one sale in 3 months. And so I'm like, okay, I just decreased your sales cycle by 2/3. But I also do a SWOT analysis, which is kind of part of more strategic planning and like EOS and scaling up. Look at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Another thing that I do is competitive research, not just from a keyword perspective, like what are your competitors ranking for as far as keywords, but how are they showing up on the market? Who are your biggest competitors? What percent of share do they have? How are they marketing their business? And then I also sometimes do voice of customer work where I will interview 3 to 5 of their former, current, and ideal customers to find out how they're really showing up on the market. Because when you have a third party interview those people love to talk, and you would not believe how they will spill their guts. They will tell you honestly what they wouldn't tell the business. And so that can really inform your marketing strategy. Like what are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? Where is the opportunity for growth? What can we do differently? So that we're serving the market the way the market wants to be served, not the way we think they want to be served.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Now, out of curiosity, when you're talking about that, is there a particular story? You mentioned the one that you shortened their lead cycle, but is there a particular impact story that you can think of where you used your background to help with a manufacturing company succeed a little bit better?
Oh, and there's so many, I don't know which one to pick. I don't know. There's so many stories, like highlights in my career that I'm so grateful for. I worked with a distributor. I actually worked with a distribution company and helped launch them into Canada. So they were a United States company only, and they wanted to go to Canada, and their Canadian headquarters was going to be in Quebec. So everything had to be bilingual. And I did all kinds of research. I built their website in 2 languages. I did all their marketing materials. I did all their HR materials. That was the translation. We had to translate everything. So I was in charge of vetting and hiring the translation firms and managing that. That was a huge project. And it's one of those that you walk away and you're like, oh, I did this. Like this was my baby.
That's awesome. I know it sounds like you bring that business operations, HR, manufacturing, marketing, a little bit of everything together as a consultant to be able to really give these manufacturers a lot more bang for their buck, right?
Well, I'll tell you another little story. This is a failure story as far as my marketing work goes, but a success story as far as what you just mentioned. I had a manufacturing company that wanted to hire me to do lead generation. I said, well, let's step back. Before we do that, let's do a sales and marketing assessment. So I did what I just told you about, the SWOT analysis, the sales team interviews, the voice of customer work, the competitive analysis. And after doing that, I found out they were in trouble. Their HR, their culture was toxic. The sales team was very unhappy. 3 of their top salespeople were actually planning on retiring in a few months, and there was no succession plan in place. When I interviewed their customers were very disgruntled. They said, we buy this $1 million piece of machine because this is the only manufacturer of it in the continental US, but they're promising us 3-month delivery times, and they're delivering in 18 months. They're costing us money. They're not communicating or returning phone calls during that time. They're not explaining why the delays are happening. So no other marketer on the planet would look at all of that. They would just go in, take the engagement. I'll take your 75,000 or whatever it is, do a 12-month lead generation campaign, get in, get out. If your company goes under next year, not my problem. And I went to the owner and I said, in good faith, I can't take this project. I can't generate more leads for you that you can't fill. So you're going to have more unhappy customers. And my assessment is that you'll be out of business if you don't fix these problems. So I referred them to an HR nonprofit consultancy that could help them with the culture and succession planning. And I referred them to their local manufacturing extension partnership to help with the operations issues on the plant floor.
Mhm.
And I did not get a marketing engagement out of it other than that sales and marketing assessment. I'm still in touch with the owner. It's been about a year. They're fixing their problems. Maybe in the future it'll turn into an engagement. But I was able to go to sleep that night with a clear conscience, knowing I did the right thing, because taking their money would have been a disservice to them. So that's different. I think every other marketing agency would have just taken the project because they don't look holistically. And that's why Lean Six Sigma, that's it. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And you filter everything through that lens. So you're looking at processes, continuous improvement. How does marketing touch sales and HR and plant floor? It's all interconnected. It's an ecosystem.
Mhm.
And that's why I think marketing fails a lot at organizations, because they're operating in that isolation. And I just approach it a little differently. I want to share one other thing, if it's okay.
Go for it.
This is just a silly thing to make Lean Six Sigma make sense to someone who has no idea what the heck I'm talking about. So how many of you, some of you out there, I'm sure a lot of you have pets, dogs, cats, horses, whatever. I do. I'm guilty. I've got 2 kitties. So what I was doing is I was feeding my animals the way I always feed them. Duh, how else do you do it? You
Yeah.
go to the bowl in the morning that's on the floor. You pick up the bowl, you take it to the counter. You go to the closet, you get out the bag of cat food, you take it to the counter, you fill up the bowl. You take the bowl back to the floor and put it on the floor. You go back to the counter, you pick up the bag of cat food, you go to the closet and you put the bag away.
Mhm.
That is a huge inefficiency. So
Yeah.
one day after I learned Lean Six Sigma, I just looked at, now this is simplified.
Yeah.
Lean Six Sigma takes training. It takes charts and graphs and data. It's all about analytics. But I looked at it, I was like, dummy, pick up the food bowl and take it to the bag, or take the bag to the food bowl. You don't
Mhm.
need the counter, because dry food, I don't wash the bowl every single day. I don't always need to take it to the
Right.
counter. And it was just like, I do that now. I just take the bag to the bowl. And that was one of those cases of once you see it, you can't unsee it. I go to Chipotle and I watch them making things and I'm like, oh God, they need a Lean Six Sigma
They just need
project.
somebody to give them a measuring cup, I feel like. Just maybe a half cup, and then what. But you see some of those teenagers taking a big old scoop and some other folks giving you half. And there's been a whole Chipotle scandal online over the last 6 months or so.
Yeah, I walk in there and I kind of, well, not just there, restaurants in general, they could all use some Lean Six Sigma. Like I cringe because they're so inefficient. But yeah, so those are just some examples to kind of make it real for you.
I love that you talk about the data and analytics side, because I think that's always been a frustration for me as the sales human working with marketing is I want to know what I can get you that drives more leads. So like, is there a particular topic or post or something that's driving more people to the website? Like, is there something that I can get you if you want to talk to my customers, or if you like need impact stories, whatever it is. And I feel like that's a big gap. So I love that you go in and you assess the sales team, you assess the marketing, and you look at everything holistically to see how we can work together. How can we use this data that a lot of people don't really talk through? This team might have data, or this team might have data, but they don't share it some of the time. So I love that you come in and take a look at the big picture.
Well, I love salespeople like you who get marketing. And you know what really has helped me? Now that I have that sales training, that Sandler and year of sales mastery, I think that earns some respect now from salespeople, because it's like, oh, she's not just a marketer. Like she speaks our language. She cared enough to know what we do and to learn what we do. And that's when I talk to marketing people. A lot of times marketing people say to me, what advice do you have for me? Like, what tools should I put in my tool belt? And I did this. I was guilty before Lean Six Sigma. It was always marketing tools. It was like always like, oh, I've got to learn AI and I've got to learn this and I've got to learn CRMs and I've got to learn video editing and which I did. But now in my career where I'm at, and I think that's what differentiates a marketer from like a CMO or a fractional CMO. Now I'm looking outside of marketing. What other disciplines can I educate myself in to make me more valuable and more effective? Sandler sales training was one. Lean Six Sigma is another. I actually just joined an organization that does national utilities refund audits. So I can go into a manufacturing company, audit all of their utility bills and find them money and save them money. And I did that because my biggest barrier to entry when I was meeting with manufacturers, they're like, no brainer, we want you. You get our industry. You're the best. We don't have the budget. We don't have the budget. We don't have the budget. Well, I can help you with that now. I have a tool where I can free up budget that can help you pay for my marketing expertise. So I just kind of, I keep adding and trying to become more of a valuable resource. And I don't ever want to demean marketing. Like I used to. I used to say to people, I'm just a marketer. They'd be like, oh, can you do the strategic planning stuff? Well, I'm just a marketer. And one time I had a guy yell at me and he said, you're not just a marketer. You're strategic. You're this, you're that. You're great at sales. You're great at this. And anyway, even if you are just a marketer, what's wrong with that? You're a damn good marketer.
Right.
And so now I own it and I'm like, yeah, I'm a marketer, but I'm like a Lean Six Sigma manufacturing minded marketer with some serious industrial chops. And so I tell marketers also, find your unique value proposition. You do it for your clients, do it for yourself. How are you different than every other marketer out there? And lean into that, like dig into that.
Well, that leads into my last question, which is going to be, what insider tip do you have based on your experience with marketing, manufacturing, Lean Six Sigma? If there's a manufacturing company that's listening, one, they should work with you. And two, what is something that they should be aware of as they are working with somebody in marketing and manufacturing?
Yeah. It's a tough question to ask. That's like a multi-prong. I could probably talk about that for another hour. It's a really deep question. So a practical tip, I think that what I would tell people that I can even help them with, and I honestly am not just about getting business. I don't need to make $600,000 a year. I don't need to steal from people to be successful. I am always authentic. I am always putting people first, and I do the right thing. I feel like if I do the right thing, the money will come, as evidenced by that project I turned down, the people who needed the HR and plant floor help. Right. So what I usually advise people is the biggest tip that's made me successful: be authentic, be a good person. And that's the easiest way to build trust. It's not this artificial thing of getting people to like you. It's connecting on a deeply human level where my clients know that I have their best interest at heart. I love them, I care about them, and I'm going to do everything I can to make them succeed. And the other thing I would say is, someone like me, I love to help people. I'm a giver, and I try to surround myself with givers. I would say if people have a question about their marketing, like you're using another agency, you're not interested in using me, I don't care. That's okay. But if you want to do like a 30-minute discovery call, I can walk you through like what you should expect from your agency. What are you getting? Are you getting everything you need to get? I even have a huge network, and I'm always happy to refer people to my network. Maybe you've got a web developer who dropped the ball and isn't following through on what you paid him to do. I have web developers I use as subcontractors. I could hook you up with someone trustworthy, someone good who's going to have the same work ethic I have. I don't want to work with people who aren't like me, because I want them to take as good a care of my clients as I take of them. So those are just tips for marketers, tips for manufacturers.
That's awesome. Now, one of the things I think that anybody watching can tell is that you're passionate about manufacturing. It's been delightful talking to you today. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tag your LinkedIn, your website below. And as people have questions, they can reach out to you directly or comment below. But thank you so much for taking the time to share all of this information for me. It's been really interesting to learn.
Thank you for letting me be a nerd and geek out on manufacturing. It's, I feel like keeping manufacturing domestic, growing the economy, creating jobs is so important. And if I can have a small part to play in that, like I can feel good about my stay on this planet. And so that's why I'm really passionately invested in it. I mean, look around you, everybody, like look around you now. the room you're in, the car you're in, the office you're in, the clothes you're in, the glasses you're in. Every single one of these things was manufactured. And if you could go on plant tours, do it if you get the opportunity to go into these facilities and see how things are made and the technology they're using and how clean it is now. It's not our parents or grandparents manufacturing dirty, noisy, greasy facilities. These are high-tech places, and it's very cool. And the people working there are very cool. So that's another tip. I encourage you, if you ever get a chance to tour a plant, do it. I toured the Domino sugar plant not too long ago, and you walk in there and boom, the smell of molasses hits you. And it was really interesting and cool. I toured Vitamix. I've toured all kinds of really cool facilities to see what they're doing. So
I don't think I
you,
can
Rachel.
tour Vitamix because I would end up with so many blenders from and just
I shouldn't be promoting another brand here, but I really want one. But even they were willing to give me a discount, and even the refurbished ones with the discount, they were a little too rich for my blood. So
yeah.
I'm sticking with my Amazon special.
Well, down the road, once we land a few more of those manufacturing companies, we'll
That's right.
again, that'll be your
Here I come. There's no stopping me. Margaritas at Gina's house.
Well, I hope everybody has a lovely rest of your day and that you take the time to reach out to Gina.
Thank you.